September of 2000, Itai Erdal received a life-changing phone call telling him his mom, Mary, had been diagnosed with lung cancer and given only 9 months to live. At the time, he had just graduated from film school, so he decided to use his skills and his art to chronicle his final journey with his mom. The result is a one-man play called How to Disappear Completely. It is my pleasure to welcome Itai Erdal to Studio 4 to tell us more. What a concept. How to Disappear Completely. What a title.
It's the name of a Radiohead song, actually. But Radiohead stole the name. It's a book that was written in the 70s called How to Disappear Completely and Never Be Found, which is a self-help guidebook in case of a stolen identity. So it was way ahead of its time.
Oh, it was. Now, your one-man play, something your mother suggested you do, or at least that you chronicle. Maybe not write the play, but go ahead, take pictures of me and you as I go on my final journey.
Well, I thought I would be a filmmaker at the time. I was going to be a documentary filmmaker, and my mom kept saying that's her contribution for my future profession.
Good mother.
And so we didn't know it was going to be a show. We thought it would be a film. And she suggested I make a film and call it Towards My Mother's Death. And throughout those last few months, she was sometimes directing that film. She would say, cut, when she had enough.
Really?
And she would say, you know, if you move the camera over there, you'll catch this and this and that. And she would, She
was guiding you even then. But the shock of, first of all, the phone call and hearing the news and making the decision to go to Israel to be with your mom.
Well, I was very, very close to my mother, and so when I heard that she is dying, she had very few months, she had 9 months left. I wanted to spend every minute I had left with her, and I wanted to see her, and the rest of my family all had jobs that they needed to attend to, and I was a freelance filmmaker and on the other side of the world, so the natural thing to do was to go and spend time with my mother, and she did not want to go to the hospital. She wanted to die at home. And so she asked me if I would take care of her at home. And the people from the hospice come and they train you on how to do that. And so, it seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
And you say, or perhaps the publicist says, that your mother was funny and vibrant and liked to dance and
That's
sing,
what makes it a
full
great
of
show,
life.
Because it would have been, she was a hedonist, and she enjoyed everything she did, and her sense of humor comes through in the play. It would have been a very dreary show about somebody who dies if she wasn't the personality that she is. And also, she was very stoic about the whole thing. She was very strong and consoling everybody around her. She kept saying things like, if I had to bury you, that would be a tragedy. You burying me, that's life. This might be premature, but that's the normal way of progression of things. And it's not like I haven't lived my life. I've lived very intensely. And she was not religious. She didn't think there's a heaven or a hell. She thought that when you die, it's just over. And so she was very practical about it.
And did you talk to her about that when she said, look, it's dust to dust. Start as dust, end up as dust, pretty much.
Many
and
times.
Did you have those conversations? Life-changing, really, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
When you perform this, what's it like? Does it feel to you like she is there with you at some level, that you're talking to her at some level?
You know, I thought that doing the show is going to be very hard and sad, and it is emotionally hard at times, but it's more joyous than anything else. It's like I get to spend more time with my dead mother. And when my mother was alive, I always knew I had the cool mom. I would bring my friends over, and they always thought she was cool. And now that she's dead, I still bring my friends over, and they still think that she's cool. And so in a way, by having this footage 12 years after she died, I still get to enjoy spending time with her. And some of my favorite parts of the show is bits where I'm just watching the screen and she's talking, where I don't have to do anything, and then I can just rest and relax, and I look at the audience and I look at my mother, and it's like I'm getting to introduce my mother to all my friends. It's
so the multi-aspects of this, there's film, there's you, there's lighting, obviously, because you are a lighting designer extraordinaire. So you put it all together.
Yeah, and it made a lot of sense because I am a lighting designer. I work in theater, but I'm not an actor. But I feel very comfortable on stage, and I'm a storyteller. I've been doing this storytelling event called The Flame a few times, and it made a lot of sense that lighting would be a metaphor for many, many things. And we did workshops creating this piece. We created this piece obviously from scratch, from absolutely nothing. So it took a few years. The Chop Theatre produced it, and James Long directed it. And we've done several workshops. And what we got from people who came to see the workshop, people wanted to see more of the lighting stuff. Everybody kept. And so that came up throughout the process of doing this piece, that lighting became a huge part of the show. And it's a metaphor, and I'm controlling the lights from the stage for most of the show. I'm manipulating the lights myself.
So the light within, the light without.
Yeah. Yeah, and I focus the lights during the show, and I run them and I talk about them, and it was surprising how something that you'd think would be a technical thing becomes
spiritual.
And a metaphor for so many things. There's a bit in the show. Many of the reviewers mentioned the bit of the show where I'm talking about my favorite lamp is a Parcan, and I show what a Parcan looks like at 100%, what it looks like at 50, what it looks like at 2, and then you go from 5% to 4% to 3% to 1%, and at 1% you still see me, and again that became a much bigger metaphor for life and
yes,
darkness
before
and
you
light
disappear
and
completely.
and to disappearing,
Oh, interesting. Did it this experience for you change how you feel about your own death?
You know, I think that all those conversations with my mother 12 years ago changed how I felt about my own death. Absolutely. First of all, I've never even considered that my mom could die one day until she got sick.
Right.
You sort of take it for granted. And then immediately you start thinking about your own death, absolutely.
Right, sure.
But if anything, it sort of reaffirmed my beliefs that you just got to live life fully, and that is sort of my mother's legacy. Absolutely, absolutely.
The reaction from the audience must be amazing afterwards. Do they come to you and tell you stories? Every night there's
a lineup of 20, 30 people waiting to talk to me, telling me about mothers that died, siblings, fathers, absolutely. I've received emails from people telling me that in the last few years they lost this and this family member, and only seeing my show made them realize that the way to deal with grief is to talk about it and not to bury it in. People told me that it's the best show they've ever seen in their life. People, the reactions are remarkable, and they sort of realized that it's bigger than me and it's bigger than my mom. It became an entity of its own, and now we're taking it on the road, and so we're going to do it in Toronto and in Ottawa, and and other people in the country will be able to see it, and so, you
celebrate the life of Mary.
Yep. Yes. Absolutely, celebrate the life of Mary, but also it's such a universal thing, right? Everybody's got a mother. Everybody knows somebody who died from cancer. Everybody,
and we're all going to die too.
Yeah,
that part,
that's right.
100%. How nice to meet you.
That's right.
So, How to Disappear Completely tonight at the Shadbolt Center. Started last night through the 10th, and then where?
And then in May at the Factory Theatre in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe Broadway.
One day.
Why not one day? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fanny.
Itai Erdal, and Itai means ouch in Japanese, you told me.
That's true.
Remember, you can catch all of our conversations on YouTube or follow us on Twitter at Fanny Studio 4.